Hello everybody, welcome to another movie review. And this, my god, okay, first of all, Avengers Endgame is fantastic. But I gotta give you this spoiler warning. I'm going to go over many details of the movie, try to go over everything I possibly can. I just saw it, and it was great. It's a very great movie. But let's start off. So we start off with Hawkeye. And he's doing Hawkeye things. I mean, obviously, he's helping train his daughter with a bow and arrow to shoot a target, and he's out with his family for a picnic. And then suddenly they all just vanish, turn to dust, and he's just thinking to himself, where do they all go? Where do they all go? He doesn't know. He's running around calling out all their names. I mean, I don't know who puts mayonnaise on hot dogs, but his two youngest children apparently do. I don't know why. And we cut to Tony and Nebula in space. So this is like way after the snap. I don't know how big this time jump is. I think they said 20 some days. And so yeah, Tony and Nebula playing the table football. When you do the field goal thing up and you flick it, and they're doing all that. Then Tony records a message, sends it to Pepper through his helmet, and he just lays down and he's just trying to sleep or whatever. Nebula puts him in the chair because he just collapsed on the floor because they're in the Guardians of the Galaxy ship. And then Captain Marvel comes out of nowhere, saves them both, takes it down to Earth, and then yeah, Tony's a little bit insane. Pepper's there. I forget who else is there. Captain America's there. Black Widow's there. Yeah, War Machine's there as well. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So basically, Tony's just insane. Captain Marvel shows up. She's there saying, hey, oh yeah, Rocket's there too. Because they eventually find out where Thanos is, because Nebula knows and all that. So then they go after Thanos, and they go to kill him. Thor's there too. And they found him because apparently he used the stones, and they just found out where he was. He used it on another planet. So they find him, and they basically ask where the stones are. Well, first thing that happens is Captain Marvel breaks in his shack and just starts shooting at him, and he gets his arm chopped off by Thor. And then they see the stones aren't there, and then they just keep yelling at him, where are they? And he said he used the stones to destroy them. So then Thor just cuts off Thanos' head. Now this might sound, if you haven't seen the movie, you don't have really time to see it and just listen to what I'm saying, you're like, wait a minute. Thanos' head was just chopped off. Yep. Thanos died. He died very early in the movie, within the first half an hour. Who would have known? But don't worry, he comes back. So yeah, Thanos is dead, and they're like, Thor, what did you do? And he's like, I went for the head. Then he walks off. And then we get a big 5-year time jump, which, well, it's pretty interesting. We start off with Cap in a circle, just a bunch of people. I don't know. It's like one of those rehab circles, or whatever. And one of the directors is in there, so that's pretty interesting, I guess. So yeah, a bunch of stuff happens. We get Natasha, also known as Black Widow. We cut to her in her. Actually, no. Before I get to that, sorry. So Ant-Man comes out of the van he was in at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and that was very interesting, because we were thinking, that van, because the van was put away in storage, he just shoots right out the back, and it's just a bunch of stuff, and he looks up with the camera, and he writes help on a sign, tries to get the person to look at it. So that's the thing he attempted to do. And well, yeah, he tried to get help, and he did. The guy let him out. Then he's walking around. He has like a trolley of stuff of his that was in the van or whatever with him. He's walking around, and he just goes to his old neighborhood, and everything's trashed. He sees his whole neighborhood, and he's like, oh man, what happened here? He asked a little kid who was on a bike, well, maybe like a 10-year-old, I don't know what happened. He didn't want to answer him. So then he was just walking around, and he saw this big gravesite on the stones, and it says disappearances, I think, and all these names on it. And he was running around looking if his daughter's was on it, but it wasn't. His was on it. Which means he went to his house, knocked on the door, his daughter was in there, and she's much older. She's like 15, 16, around there. I'm not sure how that age difference. I thought she was a little younger than 10, but she seemed to age way more than, I don't know. Something happened. I mean, give or take, I don't know. I was gonna say Ant-Man and the Wasp. I forget how old she was in that, actually. So then we jump to Black Widow in the Avengers building. Not the Avengers Tower. I forget what they call, like, the building one. And she's just talking to a bunch of holograms of people. Captain Marvel has her comic book haircut, the short haircut. And the holograms of people, they all see each other. It's kind of like in Star Wars, how all that happened. The woman warrior is there. That's in Black Panther. I don't remember her name. I feel bad for that. War Machine was there. Rocket Raccoon was there. Nebula was there. All their holograms are there. She all talks to them, and then they all vanish. War Machine might have said something of note, but I don't remember what it was. He was in Mexico at the time. Cap walks in and then talks to her about being sad and stuff. And then Ant-Man shows up. On the outside, they let him in. He talks about time travel. And they're thinking that they know a guy that can get it done. And who they talk to? They find Tony Stark. They go all the way out to this shack he now has in the woods. You got Ant-Man, you got Natasha, and you got Cap. They find him, and, well, what do you know? Good old Tony Stark has a child now. I forgot her name, too, and I feel bad. I feel bad I'm forgetting characters' names. I'm sorry, it's just that rush of adrenaline of seeing the movie. It's got me thinking that I don't remember much anymore. I've been recording a whole 6 minutes, well. So yeah, Stark's just saying he doesn't want to help because he doesn't want to leave his family behind, and he thinks this whole time travel thing is dumb, and it's not possible. So then, I forget if it was Natasha or Cap that said they're going to need someone with a bigger brain. And Ant-Man says his brain's bigger than poof. They're in a restaurant with none other than Professor Hulk. And if you don't know who that is, it's in Bruce Banner's brain. His smarts are in Hulk's body, and he sounds like Banner. I never actually thought they would use him. I thought it was just a thing people were saying, like, yeah, this is a thing, exists in comics. They're kind of going off this, but it's not 100% that is what they're doing. And they did. They had Professor Hulk. And he tried to work the time travel thing out with Ant-Man, and then apparently it just made him younger and older in the Avengers place. And then Stark pulled up in a car. He's like, okay, because he ended up finding it out at his house. He figured out how to do the time travel. So they worked the plan. That went well. And then Thor came, Nebula and Rocket, just a bunch of people, and they all split off. They were all going to come there, going to split off in the teams. Oh yeah, I also forgot to say that Natasha went to Japan to find Hawkeye, which has become Ronin, which is basically like a way darker Batman that brutally kills people. Which he came and he got over that part as soon as something happened later in the movie, which was a death. But we'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, they get these time travel things, put them on their hands. They all go to certain times where the Infinity Stones are, because they found out where all of them are. They they found Thor in a shack in the new Asgard. Thor is really out of shape now. He has really long hair, looks like a mop, and a big beard. Thor really let himself go. So yeah, they're all together now. They split in a bunch of teams. Thor went to Asgard with Rocket, and he talks to his mother, who somehow knows he's not Thor from there, and talks about time travel. Now, I might not get all these things correct about these time travel bits. I'm just going to say everything that happened in the certain section of the time travel, combine it all together. So Thor ended up, he didn't want to do it, he just didn't want to go through it, because he had to talk to his old girlfriend, which I'm glad they finally brought back up, because they haven't talked about her in 3-4 years in the movies. They finally talked about her again, and it wasn't too interesting. I mean, to be fair, she was one of the main reasons the first 2 Thor movies were bad. So yeah, it's not really that big of a deal that she was in there. But somehow his mom knew that he was from there. He also called him Mjolnir. So then he has 2 hammers now. So then they go back to present time. So that's the end of the Asgard one with Rocket. Now we're going to talk. I forget where War Machine and Nebula went, but that was a very, very interesting experience. He got separated from her somehow. They beat up Star-Lord back when he was doing his dance from the first Guardians of the Galaxy, so he could get the Power Stone. I don't remember the name they called it in the movie. So yeah, try to get that. They did get it eventually, and somehow the Nebula from the 2014 time period, which is when they went, connected to that Nebula, which eventually led to Thanos knowing and a whole bunch of stuff. 2014 Gamora. So apparently sacrifice is made for the Soul Stone, which we're going to get to here in a second. Well, we're going to talk about the other timeline first. Oh yeah, that's what happens. War Machine goes back to the present time because he gets the stone and leaves Nebula behind, and then the other Nebula finds her and then goes to present time. So the one from 2014 is working with Thanos. He does all this stuff. He ends up there. Okay, so that's what happened. So then we get to the Captain America and Tony Stark one, which is a very, very good one. There's a lot of history in it, like you would expect. Tony ends up running in with his father. That was very interesting. Also, you see a lot of the 2012 movie in there. Oh yeah, Hulk was also there as well. His role was a little less. This section is more about Cap and Iron Man. And time I have 11:44. Okay. So yeah, basically, I don't think they show this in the movie, but they handed the briefcase off to the Hydra agents. Maybe they did, I forget. And then Cap walked in the elevator with them so he could get in, and he just whispered, "Hail Hydra," and that's basically how I got the thing. And they sent Ant-Man home because Ant-Man went with them. They sent him to the present because they're like, you know what? We don't have enough of this stuff to go home, and there's only one way we can get the Tesseract. Which they did. They had to go to 1978. It was a military base, and they had to work a bunch of stuff out there. Tony ended up talking to his father, and he was really nice with him, and he said that because Tony was about to be born, so that was nice. He talked to his father. It was a very, very decent conversation. And Tony called himself Howard Potts. How funny. And he also said he had a kid of his own, and he'd do anything in the world for everything. Yeah. And then Cap saw his old girlfriend from the old movies from World War II, I believe. 1, 2, 2. And yeah, he saw her. 1978 though, she looked the same age as she was in World War II somehow. She also had a picture of him on her desk, which was, I guess, funny. So then, yeah, eventually they go back to present time, and then all the stones are there. Oh, I forgot the most important part. So Hawkeye and Natasha, Black Widow, yeah, they had to get the Soul Stone, and one of them had to go off that cliff, and they battled each other. Neither one of them wanted the other one to go over, and Hawkeye's just, you know what, I'm just going to jump off a cliff, so he put a weird taser thing on Black Widow. He jumped, she got him with a grappling hook, and she did, and then she jumped, and he held on to her, and he refused to let go, and man, this was like the second or third saddest part of the movie. And she just said bye, and she just jumped right off. Like she was on the side, and she pushed her foot right off, and she just fell and died. And it was just, man, that was a bit of a tearjerker, but not as much as one that's coming up later. Oh, jeez. I mean, you should really see this movie for yourself. If you've actually come this far and you haven't seen it, and you just want to listen to me talk about it, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. I mean, you should really see it. Yeah. So now they go back to present time. They got all the stones. The evil Nebula's there, and yeah, they still got all the stones. Hulk. They make a Finnegan Iron Man armor. Hulk puts it on. He snaps to bring everybody back. It works. And his whole arm just gets completely destroyed. So basically, he has an arm that's burn up and looks like a banner arm on one arm. It's like 100% useless now. So I don't know. I don't think Professor Hulk's gonna do any more smashing. And to be completely honest, Hulk in the MCU has never reached his potential. I mean, we've never seen him go smashing things or a bunch of stuff like that. The character's never had that much time to develop, and we've even seen this Hulk storyline going, but we haven't really seen like the brutal, destructive Hulk that the character is known for really in the MCU that much. And it looks like now we're just never going to see it. But oh well. So he does the snap, it works, and oh boy, Evil Nebula uses the time travel thing to bring 2014 Thanos around. And what do you know? He bombs it a lot. The Avengers base. There's a lot of bombs. People destroyed. The whole building's gone. Everything's just blown up. Ant-Man, Professor Hulk, and War Machine are all underground, and then Cap, Thor, and Iron Man are all above ground. And Thanos just decides just to sit on a rock. He's just sitting there waiting because Nebula's supposed to go find the Infinity Stones. So yeah. Nebula's supposed to go find the evil Nebula, the 2014 one, the one that doesn't have all the knowledge. Yeah. So that happens. And then Thor just decides, okay, cool, we're all going to do this. Thor has a lightning shoot himself. He decides not to be a bum for a minute. He gets Stormbreaker in one hand, Mjolnir in another, and it's the most epic I've ever seen Thor. Too bad he's not the only one that's also worthy of that hammer that he got back somehow, and now 2012 Thor doesn't have that hammer. I don't know. Or was it 2013 Thor? I don't remember. So yeah, basically they get into this battle. They start fighting Thanos. Thanos doesn't have the Infinity Gauntlet, obviously, but he's just really, really strong. He tears them all apart. Captain America is somehow worthy of Mjolnir. He wields it. He fights Thanos with it. And it just doesn't work. Thor and Iron Man are disarmed. Captain America's shield busted into pieces. So it's only half his shield. By the way, he got his old shield back from the back of Iron Man's trunk when he pulled up on that car. I forgot to mention that earlier. But yeah, that is something that happened in Avengers Endgame, the best superhero movie of all time. Seemed better than in the Spider-Verse. I don't know that was possible, but what are you gonna do? But yeah. So Captain America is just standing there. Thinks everything's hopeless. And before we get to, well, I don't know. Was it during? Okay, I'm just gonna say it before because I remember how things went. So Gamora and the good Nebula meet on Thanos' ship, and they're like, wanted to know what happened, and then saying a bunch of stuff and how their the good Nebula said how they became sisters after all this. So basically, now this Gamora from 2020 whenever 2014 I think is gonna be the main Gamora. Although she's kind of lost in space, and I think that's going to be the plot of the Guardians as they lead to at the end. And yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting to see indeed. At least I'll say. Yeah, then a portal opens up, and then just you see Black Panther out of it, and his sister, and then the one warrior girl, and then you just see all these characters, all the ones that were snapped away, and then just whole armies of people just come out of nowhere. You see the wizards, you see the Wakandans. I don't know if you call them Wakandans, but you see all of them just come out of absolutely nowhere, and it is just amazing. And then there's an all-out war. Cap gets Mjolnir back. Everybody's just fighting. There's just a lot of fighting, and then Thanos is getting destroyed. This is a long battle too. Ant-Man comes out in there because he burst out through the ground, and this is all happening on Earth, I believe, and it just looks like an absolute wasteland because of all the bombings. And then Thanos was about to get killed by Wanda, and then he just calls for the missiles, and then a bunch of them get shot down while this Infinity Gauntlet's trying to be ran over to. I forget where was being ran actually. But Spider-Man had it at one point. Black Panther had it at one point. And Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man's the last one to have it. And all the hero women. I feel so bad that Black would have died. All the hero women stood in front of Spider-Man and just kind of destroyed everybody. But that was after Captain Marvel absolutely destroyed the ship. Eventually, Thanos got the Infinity Gauntlet. And actually, was this before he got it? No. He was wearing it. I don't know what happened. But he was fighting Captain Marvel and losing terribly. And he tried headbutting Captain Marvel. Literally did nothing. She just blinked, face stared him in the face. and it was that was a really funny moment. So basically, how it all ended is Stark got the gauntlet off him, and he snapped. And as an Iron Man, well, actually, he didn't get the gauntlet off him. He stole the stone and put it in his armor. And basically, that's how Tony Stark unfortunately died in this movie. He did the snap, and it made all the bad guys fade, including Thanos. And we just see Stark leaning against the wall. Pepper is in iron armor now, like the Iron Man armor. I don't know what her name is, superhero name. And then you see Spider-Man, War Machine, and her just all crowded around when he's gonna die. And I forgot to say about the emotional hug during the battle, because Stark never like wanted to hug him or anything. Never felt that emotion with him, and he did now. And man, it was just something, that hug. And then Peter hugged him again, and Stark just died. Battle was over. They threw a funeral. All the characters were there that lived, and yeah, it was something. And then Captain America has to take all these stones back because that was an unfortunate event. It had to be that way. Had to go that way. Because Professor Hulk talked with what was her name? The girl that like taught Doctor Strange. I don't remember her name now. She said that about there being holes torn or whatever, if the stones are moved, but they would eventually put them back after Thanos' defeat, which they were going to do. And Captain America did that, so they had him go back in time, but he decided not to come back, so he stayed. So then they see him on a bench, and he's really, really old, and he just handed the shield off to Falcon, and Falcon's being next Captain America. And I just said, wow. Actually, a little before that, so we can end this off. They implied Thor is going to be in the next Guardians of the Galaxy, and the point of the movie is going to be to look for Gamora. So it's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for the to see what's next from Marvel. You know, I think the future's uncertain. I think all they really got going for right now is Spider-Man and the next Guardians of the Galaxy. They got at least 2 more Spider-Man movies and a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Otherwise, I really don't know what Marvel has left. I mean, you know, you kept Thor alive. Hulk's alive, but really badly damaged. You got you got all the X-Men that you can now work with, the Fantastic Four. You just got a lot. So yeah, thanks for watching, and thanks for being here. And I hope you enjoyed this movie review. I'm gonna give a 9.7 out of 10. You know, it's a very, very good movie. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.